I can take control of my body and I can do what I want with it. Like, this is my meat suit. I don't want to live like this anymore. And definitely didn't feel like myself or at home in my body. I wanted to be able to do pull-ups like Magic Mike.
What is the first time you started seeing results?
Listen, I can't narrow it down because there have been so many. Because I came in here squatting 45 pounds.
You started with us, what, a year ago? A little more than a year ago?
I guess 13 months. It was the end of August of last year. Yeah.
13 months. What was life like before you started? What brought you in here?
Well, it wasn't great. And I mean, I feel like that's like a little like too intense. Like my life was good. Like I was by all standards, like having a good life, but I was like pretty unhappy. I also had been like working out for a long time and didn't have like the muscle that I wanted. I didn't have like the cardio fitness that I wanted. And I guess it was about 2 months after I had COVID and thrown out my back because I had a herniated disc that I came here. And I was just like physically not in my best shape. I was afraid to lift heavy. I was afraid to do anything too taxing. And I was pretty depressed. Like I thought that I was just the type of person that like, you know, my brain's broken and I'm too smart for any therapist. They're not going to be able to fix me. So this is just who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. It's just like kind of sad.
Yeah. But other than that, life was great.
You know, other than those like major physical and mental issues. I mean, yeah, I was like definitely like super functional. Like I have a great career. I have a fantastic wife. We own a home. We have adorable pets. Like we don't have children. Like those are all the things that you do to win at life.
Yeah. That's right. So you did all the things to win at life. How old are you? Do you mind if I ask?
I'm 35.
Right. So you did all the things to win at life. You got this great career. You know, you've got this sort of, you know, dogs, house, family sort of situation, but you just weren't happy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
definitely didn't feel like myself or at home in my body or, I don't know. It's really difficult to describe. Like I felt really distant from who I am. And I also didn't like who I was.
Wow. So what, like, okay, so you had COVID and then you threw out your back and you're like, this is it. I have to do something.
Yeah. I was kind of like, I've spent all this time, like, you know, doing workouts. Like I'd been following like this trainer online and following those workouts. And I have like a great home gym and I was able to do the stuff, but like results just weren't happening.
Yeah.
Or I would kind of like fluctuate. Like I'd lose 20 pounds and kind of look better, but then I would like slack off for a few months and then come back. And so I was finally like, I'm willing to accept that I don't have the expertise to do this on my own. Like I can pay somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah. How did you find us and what kind of led you through our door?
I really don't remember. I probably Googled like personal trainers Albany or something like that. And you guys came up. And I think probably the only reason that I ended up like sticking with it is because I'm pretty sure Heidi called me like 20 minutes after I like submitted the form or the email or whatever it is. And she was like, okay, well, why don't you come in? And I was like, okay, yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's great.
So write that down. Like, personal trainer Albany, call as soon as you fill out the form. Okay. So you said, okay, great. Like we'll check these guys out. And you came in, like, what was it like when you walked in here?
I mean, one of the coolest things was like the first person that I spoke to here was a woman and like a woman who was like super confident and empathetic. And I feel like that's not the case. Like a lot of the times, if you go to Planet Fitness and you like try to find a trainer, like you're going to get a bro. And while you may be like, I don't know, for me as like a female bodied person, it was just very nice to be like, this is somebody who has struggled with the same stuff that I have struggled with. They've dealt with like the limitations of the female body. And yeah, it just felt like I felt instantly at ease with that.
Yeah. So there was no like fear or trepidation when you walked in?
I mean, they're obvious. Like, I mean, that's just like how I am with my personality is like, God forbid anybody should perceive me and I should leave my home.
That's accurate.
Right?
Yeah, that's especially after COVID. It's
Yeah.
just like you get used to just being in the house and you don't want to be around other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But is that sort of seeing that maybe this is like different from other places that made you want to kind of give it a try?
Definitely. There's also this thing, I'm in recovery, and so like there's also this saying like you're given the gift of desperation, and like I was like pretty desperate. I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore, and I happened to also be on this like I've gathered this inertia of like making decisions about changing my life, and they were like little things. Well, I guess not little things. Like one of those decisions was that I decided to like up my dose of testosterone. Another one was that I had decided that I was finally going to get a tattoo that I wanted. And it was just sort of this like time of like being kind of desperate and also wanting to take action against that, so that I didn't have to feel that way anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say you were in recovery, like what is that? What is that?
Hi, I'm Artie, and I'm an alcoholic.
Right. Okay. Got it. Just wanted to be clear. And so you're basically like you're feeling stuck, but you also you're taking these little actions. Were you doing those things before, or?
Like I would sort of do it. Like I'm the type of person, like all throughout my 20s, I dealt with like major depression and like recurrent depressive episodes. And the nice thing about going through a depressive episode is that you're sort of like given tools to deal with it and given the means of recognizing when it's coming on again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had built up this like it's called a RAP. It's basically an action plan that you put into action when you start to feel bad, and that's like the basic stuff. It's like a list of like brush your teeth, like wash your face, take a walk, all of those things.
Yeah,
and so I think because I had built off of like being like, okay, I can put this into action. I can make these teeny tiny decisions every day.
Yeah.
That can help me feel better.
Is that like a 3x5 card that you keep with you or something?
Oh my God. No. Well, maybe for a normal person, but I have like over-engineered this Notion database where like all of my recurring tasks live in it. Like I keep track of like all of my habits and like I definitely need like a reward system. And so like I get points when I like finish things. Like I've gamified my life. Like if I do laundry, I get 3 points.
That's freaking awesome.
Oh my God.
I want all of it.
Yeah. I am so not surprised that you have a Notion database for this. And
I want points for laundry.
And I absolutely want to see it. So okay.
Oh
so,
yeah, you just like never mind.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I have Notion open right here. It's basically another version of that spreadsheet that we talk about. It's just like, but it's more, programified.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I like it. Okay, so when you walked in here, what was your goal?
I think it was like I know exactly what I said. Yeah. I told what I told Heidi is that I wanted to be able to do pull-ups like Magic Mike. Which like I feel like okay, I'm gonna die on this hill, but I feel like Magic Mike is a movie that appeals to everybody, no matter what your sexual orientation is. But like, there's one scene where some guy just goes up and he's just cranking out these like wide-armed like pull-ups, and I was like, damn. And it's not because I was attracted to it, because anyway,
Oh my
pull-ups
God.
like Magic Mike.
All right, we've got to get a clip of that.
It's
put in
so
here.
good. Yeah, bust that in. I remember it so clearly because Artie's like, I want to do the kind of pull-up, which is like a casual pull-up, which is like the come in, jump up into the bar and do a pull-up, like no warm-up, no like, preface, just like jump up and do it. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
I want to be able to do that.
I know. That's
Everybody
such a good
does.
goal. Just the casual pull-up. Just show up at the playground with your friends and just like,
Yeah.
Just
No
as a normal person does.
yeah.
Right. So are you able to do that?
I can like pretty casually do kipping pull-ups.
Okay.
I got pretty close to doing a strict pull-up before I had surgery. But now all of the muscles in my back have turned into little corn nuts.
Which
Right.
you say, and then you just like busted out like 6 kibben pull-ups yesterday. I saw it.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna have to get a video of that when you're feeling better. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So was that the only goal, or were there any others?
I mean, just generally, I also wanted to like gain muscle and like lose fat. Like I tend to have a lot of discomfort around like how big my hips are, and like like I wanted to look less like overtly feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just Dorito shaped.
Right. So what were some of the challenges that you faced? I mean, you kind of got started. I remember when you started, like you what did you say? Basically, I don't want to leave my house. I remember just kind of getting that vibe from you.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't know about being here. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like when you started?
Yeah, well, I guess that what I was hoping for is like I would get like somebody who just like told me what to do, and then I would go home and do it, because that's what I had been doing.
We made you show up here?
Yeah, they're like, no, you're gonna come in here. At first, like that was pretty tough because I was coming off like not only like 2 and a bit years of COVID lockdown, but also like prior to that, I had worked remotely for I think like 2 or 3 years, and so I was pretty used to being a homebody.
Yeah.
So coming in here like 3 times a week, and at that point it was in the afternoon, so it was a little less like difficult because I wasn't like, oh, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. to get somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was shocking, and I was just like, oh, I can't believe I have to leave my house
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. So Katie, I know you remember this.
Yeah.
Well, how did you help RD get through this? Or was it just like you were going to show up no matter what?
Actually, for RD, like it was uncomfortable showing up, but you never didn't show up. Like it was one of those things that like for me, I didn't have to do anything other than tell them.
Yeah.
And they showed up. And like when I reflect a little bit on when you started and like some of the challenges that were coming up, and one of the reasons why I found working with you just like so interesting and intriguing was like you came in like with this goal of like, casually wanting to get fitter. You already had some background in lifting and working out. And then you also had this idea about body change, and I want to feel more at home in my body. And so there was this, like, to me, one of the big challenges was this interplay of like, great, what steps do we take to actually physically transform your body so that you feel better in it? And then what steps do we take to mentally be more at home in our body? Because if you are not in a place where you can recognize your own success or your own good things, then we can take all the steps in the world to get you there, but you're not gonna know it.
Yeah.
So I remember like a lot of what we worked on early on was like, I remember making RD so uncomfortable, like asking them about anything that went well during the week, right? And it was like, praise, like I can't do that. I can like self-deprecate and be like hypercritical all day long and laugh about it.
Yeah.
But like to genuinely accept that anything that I'm doing is right or good, or anything about my body is right and good, like that was scary and hard.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I remember like that being one of the biggest challenges was like, what steps do we take to change our body? And then what are the steps that we're changing also mentally to become more at home in our body through this process?
I'm just thinking back, like, so, you come in now, RD, and you're just like fired up, excited to be here. I do remember you leaving early a few times in the early days, or just like rushing out and not saying anything.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely stay for the whole thing, but I'd be like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that was just the perception, is because you turn your head and you were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I generally tend to operate under the assumption that like nobody likes me, or at least I used to. I feel like I've sort of gotten better about that. And so I would be like, oh, okay, it's over. I got to get out of here. Like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to win.
I don't want to take up any more space. I'm out of here now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that started to shift for you at some point. When was that?
I think as like the group that I was working in out in got bigger. Like definitely like the 7 a.m. group
Yeah.
that I'm in. Like I think that was probably the biggest shift was like suddenly I'm with like these same women every morning and like we've built a rapport and they know exactly all of my quirks of personality and the weird things that I'm going to say. And so, yeah, like that made it much more comfortable. And having that one space that I felt good in, like suddenly it was like, oh, everybody here is probably like this. Like I can be myself and like start conversations with people. Like nobody's going to be like, why the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
I noticed this as a shift for RD2. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but when you started too, there was a lot of anxiety around going to any class even. And so, you know, we were working in small groups, one-on-ones for a while. And then it was a big step to like even have the courage to enter in a group that was a little bit larger.
Yeah.
How is this going to go? Like, what are people going to think of me? And I was telling RD, like one of the reasons we invited you to this podcast and like one of the reasons that I think you're such a valuable member of that group is because like RD brings out in other people also like things that they might not share otherwise.
Yeah.
And you can see it. Like that entire group I think is so connected. And I don't think it's a coincidence because like you're willing to be vulnerable and open and just like 100% blatantly yourself. So I think there's like I do think there's like this positively reinforcing cycle as well that I've noticed.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. We've been doing this for 10 years now. And I can tell you that the people here are amazing. And I can introduce you to them. And I can, like try to encourage you. But based on the experience that you've had in every other place you've ever been to, you are never going to believe me until you're actually here and you see it on a daily basis. And it's like one of the things that makes it stick for people. Because it's just like, I mean, anyone can find a great workout program, but it's really hard to show up when you don't feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. It's just really, really hard because you don't want to be judged every day. And I don't know how long it took you, but it was just like one day it flipped. It was just like, you went from this like kind of fuck off energy to like, to like, I can't wait to be here kind of energy.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
I can't I really don't know if I can pinpoint it. Like I feel like it was a while before that because I remember doing the 12 days and just being like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go back there for 12 days straight. I feel like it probably was actually around the time that I like decided to get sober, like which was the end of February. Because like so much of my life changed after doing that. And so many of the ways that I like approached myself and other people changed after that. And so I can't it's probably got to be around that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I definitely want to dig into that. But right before we do that, what is the first time you started seeing results? Like, do you remember what the first kind of result that you saw or change that you saw?
Oh, man. Listen, I can't narrow it down because there have been so many. But maybe it may have been my squat.
I feel like that's what I go to too.
Because I came in here squatting 45 pounds.
45 pounds?
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were able to squat 55 pounds or like what happened?
I think that the first jump was pretty big.
Yeah.
Like, it was,
yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what the number was, but it was probably like 20 or 30 pounds
Yeah,
more.
in 8 weeks about. It was it was pretty significant in 8 weeks to the point where we were like, okay, like we've got leg strength here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we got something to work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, you got sober in February. Mm-hmm. You started here when?
August. The year prior. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So like, 5-6 months, like what happened between those times that made you say, okay, I want to make this change?
Oh man. Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint it because like I said, I was in this like period of like metamorphosis, I guess, of like, taking more tea and really realizing like I can take control of my body and I can do what I want with it. Like this is my meat suit. Like I get to do what I want with it.
Yeah.
And all of these other things in my life were going so well. Like I like I was definitely less depressed and anxious. And I was like feeling stronger, but there were some days where I would come in and I would like not feel like I had it, or I wouldn't be like losing weight because, you know, I'd have like 2 or 3 beers, and then like beer makes you hungry. So you'd like want to eat a bunch. And like, what do you want to eat? You want to eat like crunchy, salty stuff after you've been drinking. And yeah, I think it was like a Sunday morning. And I had just gone on a trip to Portland with my wife and one of my closest friends who are also both sober. And on the way back, we were listening to this podcast because it's a 9.5 hour drive. It's called Fucking Sober, and it's about somebody's like first 90 days in sobriety. And so we listened to that, and like Annie and Chantal were like talking about sobriety, and I was just like driving, and I had a headache and I had this like pain in my neck. And then we got home, and I like one of the first things that I wanted to do was like drink. And so like I think I drank a bunch of like, it was like a cider that was like kind of like an IPA. I probably had like 3 or 4 pints of it. And the next morning I woke up and I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, this doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want to be this kind of person. And especially in the context of like other people talking about sobriety around me, I was like, I think I want that. Like, I want to have that feeling of like weight lifted and positivity and like all of these things that you think people in AA make up, you know?
Yeah. That's just one of the many changes that you made in your life outside of the gym.
Yeah.
Katie made me a list. Do you remember what they were?
Well, I just, I mean, there's a lot. And it's so interesting, like to hear you kind of like tell that story too, because, you know, when we've talked about it too, like you wouldn't have even described yourself as like a quote unquote problem drinker, right? Like you would look at it, you know, any person would look at it the course of the week and be like, okay, this is someone who drinks socially, they drink for fun, they don't overdo it, you're not binge drinking, you're not dependent on it, right? Necessarily. But then it was this like thing that you had found was amplifying these other emotions that you have. So like if I have a little bit of anxiety, I drink and then I have more. Or if I have a little bit of depression, I drink and it amplifies it. And so it was like this change was rooted in this desire to like, those feelings are really what I want to have more influence over. And it's just like, to me, it was just this other step. Like you continue taking these steps that are saying yes to the fact that like, I can change this thing about myself if I want to. And that was an experiment, and it just so happened to yield results that you're really happy with. So it's like, great, stick with it. And that's what I've noticed is just like this kind of snowball effect of recognizing the ownership that you have over not just your physical body, but your own mental state. Which, I mean, we were just talking about this yesterday, like just that transition to go from the belief of I will always be this way. This is just how I am, you know, I'm prone to depressive episodes and that's just what it's going to be, to be like, actually, I have some control. I might not have complete control, but like I've got a lot more control than I was giving myself credit for. And like, that's where I've seen it play out. And it's like all the things that have changed to me have been like just votes in that direction. Whether it's like, all right, I'm going to get sober. I'm going to get this tattoo. Even the decision to get top surgery was a huge one because of all these fears you had. But here you had like grown this whole abundance of evidence that like, actually I can do things that are mad scary and come out on the other side okay. You know?
So for context, I want to share the list that you sent me.
Love it.
Because I don't think people know this. So you've had fewer depressive episodes. You stopped drinking. You had top surgery. You got a tattoo that you'd been wanting. You supported your partner through a job change, and you reduced your work stress. That is just the non sort of gym victories. And then we have a whole list here of things that you've done inside the gym. Well, go take a look through that list. So we got like, you went from 0 pull-ups to being able to do a pull-up.
Magic Mike style.
I actually strung together 5 once.
Yes. Okay, that's so funny. Yes, I had that recorded, and I was like, "Is that real?"
It was in a class.
Dang it! I thought so. So it was real. No wonder. Okay, that's fine. I was like, I don't want to give you credit for it if it didn't actually happen because that'd be more embarrassing. But like, that's freaking rad. Okay. Anyway, so there's that.
You went from 0 to 5 push-ups, and these are just the numbers that we have. I'm guessing you can do more for some of this stuff. 0 rope climbs to 5 in 1 minute. Back squat went from 45 to 195. Bench press went from 55 to 135. Deadlift went from 155 to 275. You cut your mile time down by 43 seconds. So you went from 9:32 to 8:45. You doubled the amount of burpees you can do in 1 minute. That's actually a really big deal.
That's like kind of insane.
Yeah. So going from 12 to 24, you've added 10 pounds of muscle and lost 5 pounds of fat. That's 1 year. Yeah. That's pretty freaking phenomenal.
I'm glad that you put it in a list in front of me, because there are so many times when I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm like pretty much the same as I was last year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
No, but I mean, that's the thing. You have made incredible progress.
Yeah.
Incredible progress. And, you know, part of what's really cool about what we get to do is we get to see that. The thing that's interesting about going through it is you know how much work it takes, so you don't really feel it as much, right? Dude,
Yeah.
you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just how I live.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I remember it brings me back to like even thinking about when we were working on nutrition starting out. It was like this desire to like, I want to change my body through nutrition. You know, I recognize the nutrition plays a role, and like I don't want to diet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I hate being hungry. Like I will not stand for any of that.
Yeah. Like I spend enough of my life hungry.
Yo, that's right. Like we've done that, man. It sucks. And so it was like, great. Like, where do we start? And I remember, what's so funny is now, like, you're freaking meal prep master. I mean, RD is like preps these freaking gorgeous meals. Even before you went into surgery, you already filled your freezer with like,
I think that I prepped like 15 or 20 meals.
Yeah.
Like
basically enough to get through the like next apocalypse.
yeah.
Because
like that.
yeah.
Because I also like, I'm not a person that likes to ask for help. And I very much had to rely for help, during my surgery recovery.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make it as easy on my wife as possible. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like prep all of these meals.
Yeah.
And then she'll never have to cook for me, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. But we
amazing.
we worked through all this stuff to even get to that place.
Yeah.
And it was around like, let's just take dinner and let's just make a plan for dinner. And like, let's come up with something for Annie. And like, step one is just going to be to plan it. Like, forget even executing it. We're just going to hope to plan it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, great, let's plan it and then do it.
Yeah.
And it was like, let's plan it, do it, and eat it. Was like the thing. And then it was like, there was a lot of like, when I think about your journey around your work and all the stress that you were having around work and like the pressure that you were putting on yourself and all this stuff. And then there was this whole like emotional eating piece where I was like, I'm done with work. And like the last thing I want to do is prep food. All I want to do is just like eat a bunch of Twizzlers and, you know, peanut butter pretzels or whatever.
First of all, it was red licorice. It wasn't Twizzlers. I have some class.
Oh my gosh. I heard Twizzlers the other day described as like somebody who was trying to make a toy and then like turn it into a food. Like
it's like eating Barbie shoes.
It's so bad. Okay, fine. So great. So, but that was what it was. It was like, it was kind of this sense of, I'm so done with this and I'm looking for this outlet. And so then we were like, okay, let's make a list of things, of other things that we can do aside from like going to food, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes. And then we decided we want to go to food. Mm-hmm. But it was like working through all these little things. And then eventually it was like, okay, I'm going to try doing this thing. I'm going to prep these meals, and it started as just one, and then it became 2. And so it's just kind of like interesting to look like now it's so obvious. Like, yeah, of course RD's going to prep meals. We were looking at the other day, like, oh, duh, you can eat 200 grams of protein without blinking an eye. Like, no big, got it.
Yeah.
But early days was like, it was one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were never the person that prepped meals before.
I mean, a long time ago when I was like 15 years ago when I was like deep in an eating disorder, like, yeah, I definitely like prep stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, it really hadn't been the case in this time. Like Annie and I had tried like all of the meal kit things and like ordered a lot of like takeout before we came here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't like your thing.
No. I was like, I don't like, my time is so precious. I don't want to like spend my time doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I need more time to be sad.
yeah, I mean, what's really interesting is like you actually over the last year have been through most of the excuses that people give us for reasons why they struggle to do things. It's like, I don't like being around people. My work is stressing me out. I'm dealing with depression. I don't like prepping my meals. I've had a eating disorder. I don't want to deal with, dieting. And it's like, oh, I'm not strong. All of these things that people use as excuses. And you've just like one by one kind of picked them off like a sniper. Like, was there a key sort of habit that you can kind of identify as like, as long as I'm doing this thing, then I can keep doing the next thing?
I mean, coming to the gym, like showing up at the gym was the big thing. And then also like I made this decision within the first weeks. Actually, I think it was like Rebecca asked me, she's like, what would you count as like success after 8 weeks? And I was just like, I don't know. I guess if I just like do everything Katie tells me.
Right.
That's right.
And like, and so, yeah, like that was part of it. It was like showing up to the gym and having that momentum, and especially shifting to like working out in the morning. Like if you have like worked out and showered by 8:30 in the morning, like
God,
the rest of the day,
Yeah.
like you're just like, I am a champion.
That is amazing. Yeah, it's funny. That's right. We used to have a sign that said "just show up" because it is like the keystone habit is like if you just show up.
Yeah.
The other thing you said was really interesting. So it's like, I don't know, if I do everything Katie tells me to do, then it's great. So you weren't so focused on the outcome. The Magic Mike pull-up was like, you can take it or leave it. It was more just like, I want to do the thing.
Yeah. Like, and for me, I think the big thing is like, I want fitness to be a part of my life. Like if I'm going to live to be old, like I want to be able to like squat and like move around and like get up from the floor.
Yeah.
And so I want to stay mobile, and then also just like it makes my life better. And so I wanted to find a way of making, of keeping this keeping this going forever. And so showing up and like doing what Katie tells me to do, like that's the thing to do. And it removes the mental burden of being like, okay, what workout am I going to do? And like, am I getting the results? Do I need to shift to a new program? And like, is it a nutrition thing or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So I have several more kind of questions we can kind of dig in here, but I know that Katie had a couple of things that, or did you? Maybe I
No,
asked
that's,
them all.
I think
okay.
no, we're getting, like, I think that we're getting there. Yeah. Ask whatever you want.
So I'm really curious about the top surgery and like, you tell me a little bit more about like why you decided to do that, what it meant for you, and, kind of how all of these changes led to that.
Yeah. For people listening who don't know, top surgery is removal of the breast tissue and reconstruction of the chest to look flatter or sometimes more masculine, depending on like your outcomes. And I wanted to do it because like I had never felt a particular like connection to my boobs. Like, especially like when I was a teenager, like I had no boobs and then suddenly I had very big ones and everybody like commented on them and made jokes about them. So even from the very beginning, it was just like, there are these things here and I don't like them. And they always felt like so separate from me. I'm also like non-binary and transmasculine. I don't identify as a man, but I do like sort of like bringing out more androgynous masculine features in myself. And so, yeah, I guess all of these things in my mind are what brought me to feeling like I don't want to have these on my chest. And then also, like, once you start doing like a bunch of like cleans, you're like, wow, these are really in the way. Like, honestly, like, and so, I reached this point in May where I was like, I think this is something I really need to do. I'd sort of explored it for like years and thought about it and like never had like the surgery consult, but I had talked to people at like Kaiser about getting it done. And finally I was just like, I gotta do it. Like this, like, if I have to continue to be alive, like I don't want it to be with boobs. And this year of making decisions, to sort of like become more myself really led up to that. And like a lot of the, like I'd done scary things in the past, you know, like things that I had no concept of what it was going to be like. And I had never had surgery before. And so surgery was like this big, scary thing. I was like, I'm going to be that one person who like, I get anesthesia and then like God is just going to be like, my special boy's back. I'm taking him. And I was certain I was going to die. And then I was also certain that like recovery would be like the most excruciating pain. And like, it would just be like months of like not being able to do it. And finally, I think what I said to Katie yesterday was like, I was like, the pain of not doing it hurt more than like what I was like pain that hadn't happened yet, the like fear of future pain. And so I did it.
Yeah.
huge.
It's like a whole year of just changes.
Yeah.
So what's the next year going to be like?
I don't know. There was part of me when like I finished surgery and I was like, well, what now?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. There are always more like pull-ups to do. Like, but I mean, what we're working on now is like specifically like trying to grow muscle. Like so I had surgery 2 months ago. I'm pretty much back to, I would say like 95%.
Yeah, you're able to, you know,
Yeah,
do
like I
pull-ups
like I
and things
can't do a
that.
dead hang, but I can do like a kipping pull up.
Yeah.
And every week it gets better. And so like like I talked to Katie and I was just like, I want like bigger shoulders, chest, biceps. Like I have like super wide hips. I kind of want to like balance it out. And yeah, like I perceive that as like where I'm like weakest. And so I want to work on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's like the next year.
Yeah.
Right. I'm really curious. I mean, the rate of change over the last year for you has just been tremendous. I'm really curious as to where this goes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, how many sequels of Magic Mike were there? Like,
there were at least 2 sequels.
yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So I absolutely love this.
Go ahead. We've talked about before too, how like life is interesting like this, and there tend to be these cycles of like, I call them conveniently like define, grind, rewind, which is like there are years where we kind of have these defining, like we make decisions that sort of change the course of where we're going. And then there are the years where we grind or we just kind of like keep going in that direction. And that's kind of what the year is about. Like, all right, I've already made these changes. I'm making progress. Now I'm like doing that work of digging into them, of like leaning into them and like, what does all of this really mean for me? And then there's rewind, which is like, okay, I've done that. Now let me take it back and decide, do I want to redefine where I'm at? So it's like this kind of constant like define, grind, rewind process. And so like I see this year for you as like a huge define year. And then like, who knows, maybe we continue to define or maybe we continue to grind and like see where that takes us. And then because you're like reflective and quite introspective, like we'll be paying attention to like, is this the course that we want to be on? You know? I too am very curious about like, all right, what next?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's we're gonna have to do a follow up then and see how it goes.
I'll just be so buff I won't fit
I
through
know,
the door.
that's right. Yeah.
It's all right. We can take the podcast stuff out. So, just 2 more questions. So, one, have you ever been in a place or a community or just an environment that you felt sort of this way about?
No. Like, I don't think that I've ever felt like this comfortable or excited about like a group of people. Like, and honestly, like going through surgery and not being able to come here for 4 weeks was like so tough. Like it was really tough. Like, yeah, 2 days after surgery, I came here and watched the lift off because I was like, I gotta see him. But yeah, like it's not anything that I've experienced. And like, honestly, that's one of those things that like has been missing for a long time. Like there's sort of this idea of, in like young queer people, like you're supposed to have this big like queer community. And if you don't have that, then you feel like, oh, I'm not like a good enough queer or like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it turns out that like, actually I was just like looking for community in the wrong place and it's here.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. So last question. So rewind back, 16 months ago or whatever, someone just like you who is in the situation that you were in is thinking like, okay, I want to do something like this. I mean, looking at a gym like this or whatever. What's your advice for them? All right, what is your best advice for that person?
I mean, the biggest thing is just showing up. Like, even if you like don't want, well, I guess prior to that, there's like a goal. But even then, it can be hard to set a goal if you've never like set that before, or if the goal seems too unattainable. Just like make the next right decision. Like, and oftentimes the next right decision is like, just go to the gym. Just like start your day off with a workout, you know? Like, and it's incredible how much like momentum good decisions make, even if they're little ones.
Yeah. And is that added to your Notion template, the showing up at the gym?
I have like this like formula that does the calculus of inertia in my life right now. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't really.
Oh, I want that.
I love it. Anything else to add, RD?
I don't think so.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
I have one other thing
go
to
ahead.
add. And because I was going to ask that same question of like along the lines of what would you advise someone who's like similar to you and just kind of getting started? But the thing that I notice about you too is like, yes, showing up relentlessly and also like being honest with yourself about what you want. Like that is something that you have done time and time again, even if that has meant like looking in the mirror and being like, I want this thing and I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, and taking that real look at what is it? Like why am I not there yet? Like you've always been so honest with yourself about that stuff. Like, here's what I want and here's where I'm at. That I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
To A, define what they want, and then B, to like take an honest look about where they're at. And I wouldn't say that you always do it without like criticism or judgment. Like we're working on like the curious lens, but more and more I see that happening. So anyway, that's the other thing that I've noticed from RD.
And when you're able to do that, then you can be honest with other people and your authentic self comes out and people love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, you know, when you started doing that, you started opening up, it was just like, oh man, RD's great. Like I can't wait till RD comes to my session. Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's really the whole point of this. I mean, who cares what you look like or how much you weigh or how much you can lift? It's like, are you happy in your body?
Yeah. It's like, do you want to feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time
Thanks,
to
Artie.
chat with
Thanks
us
for having
today.
me.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do a follow up and see what life is like a year from now. So
I love it.
all right, we'll see you
love
next
it.
time.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.